It was here that Steve Hislop surprised everybody and claimed pole position in only his second meeting on the Yamaha. When the race started, he showed that it was no fluke by keeping the lead. Unfortunately, the tricky damp conditions got the better of him, and he went wide, allowing Walker into the lead and dropped back to 4th place. Paul Young's privateer lead was looking under threat after a run of crashes. And Bayliss seemed to be struggling in the conditions with his tyre choice.
Ahead of Bayliss is now number 7, Sean Emmett. So Sean Emmett is really on a march here. He's charging away in front of Bay. Oh, he's charged too fast into the fence. That front tyre let go and he rammed the rubber tyre wall there, but miraculously the rider okay. Chris Walker, meanwhile, at the front, knee on the tarmac, even though the conditions are slippery, but you can see the dry line there. It's about 1 metre wide. The fire extinguishers are out with a vengeance to Sean Emmett's Ducati. That's proving to be a very costly crash.
Yeah, this is coming down from Druids, and he just lost the front end on the damp patch there, and the bike hits the tyre wall, but unfortunately cartwheeling, £5,000, £10,000, that's all the data logging equipment on that bike smashed to pieces. That was a very, very expensive crash. Not just for his points and for his rear gunning activities, he's out of the race. Here we are back to number 1 there. That's our reigning champion, Neil Mackenzie, as he nipped through there on past number 8, James Hayden, going round the left-hander here. This is Surtees Corner, onto the main straight, up here now, back at the front, last lap, and it's Chris Walker very comfortably in the lead.
That scrap between Hayden and Mackenzie, something of an anti-climax really, because Hayden has gone so well earlier this year, but he's fallen off the pace a bit, but Walker has got better and better and better. This will be his 2nd win, and he's had such a frustrating season because he's been on the podium no less than 14 times, but he knows he's got this one wrapped up. The checkered flag is out, 43 miles completed. Chris Walker, 25 points to the good, and speaking of 25, Hodgson is looking over his shoulder for his teammate Bayliss. Now, are we going to see the team? He's cruising, it's not a problem. This is team tactics played to the ultimate. Bayliss is going to take 2nd place and 20 points, minimising the damage done by this man, Chris Walker.
Bayliss's lead was now just down to 13 points, and if it wasn't for his teammate, it would be even closer. Reynolds slipped back after a bad tyre choice and let the gap between him and Bayliss increase to 32 points. But it was Walker that was riding high going into round 22.
It's pole position for Steve Hislop. Bayliss, Reynolds and Hodgson complete the front row. Chris Walker, 8th fastest. That's the best he could do in qualifying, but it's Neil Mackenzie, reigning champion, who was 5th fastest. Llewellyn, Shane Byrne, Craggill and privateer championship leader Paul Young complete row 3. Oh, there's drama! There's drama! Steve Hislop's bike has played up on the warm-up lap, and he will be forced not to start from pole position, but start from the pit lane on the spare machine. And it's very dramatic because he's never ridden that bike before. He will have virtually no chance of a good start because the orders say that the last rider must have gone past the end of the pit lane before Hislop can start. There's a big gap on the front row. That gives Bayliss the opportunity to rocket away, and he does. And rocketing out of the pit lane, tail end Charlie Steve Hislop with an enormous task over 16 laps. But it's Bayliss. Bayliss, the championship leader, but this will be a closely fought race because the track conditions are perfectly dry. Everyone is on slicks. Looking back now from Chris Walker at James Hayden on the Suzuki. Hayden, 5 wins in this championship, but he's not really shining here at Brands Hatch. Look how quick the Kawasaki rockets away from the Suzuki. Number 32, Bayliss leads. It's Reynolds, much better this time for John Reynolds. He knows now he's trailing in the points. He dropped down 1 place in the championship after round 21, so he needs to make amends. He is currently sitting in 2nd place. Number 4, John Reynolds. It's teammate to the race leader and championship leader Neil Hodgson who gave him those 4 points by giving him 2nd place in round 21, Neil Hodgson. Then it's Sean Emmett, none the worse from that huge crash which wrecked his bike, so he's out on the spare bike. We talked a lot about team orders, and Emmett, number 7, has got a big job to do to defend his teammate John Reynolds, who's now in 2nd place, and Emmett climbing all over the back of Neil Hodgson, who in turn is having a serious go at John Reynolds. Chris Walker then right tucked in there in 5th place. Race leader Bayliss, 2nd is Reynolds. In third place, it's Hodgson, number 25. In fourth, it's number 7, Emmett. Then it's Chris Walker. And oh my, he nearly bit the Kawasaki and nearly threw it all into the grass, but he needs desperately to consolidate on that first race win, Steve.
This is what the championship's all about, and look at that number 7 there. Emmett goes through on the inside in Paddock Hill Bend, and he nearly loses it and nearly pushes number 25 there, Neil Hodgson, out. Hodgson managed to slam it back across the front of Emmett. The man that's missing out here is Chris Walker, who has a look round the outside as they come round Druids. He has no rear gunner. Both Bayliss there has Hodgson, and Hodgson goes into second place. That's a perfect position for Troy Bayliss. They come out of that slow left-hand Graham Hill Bend into Surtees now, and perfect there for number 32, Troy Bayliss, who has his rear gunner. Neil Hodgson in second place. Reynolds in third, and Walker's gone through into fourth place now. We're looking back for number 2, Chris Walker, and he goes straight away past number 7, Sean Emmett, as they go on the fastest part of the course here, 175 miles an hour. Emmett goes up the inside there. Unbelievable from Emmett, but he runs a bit wide. I think Chris Walker's going to get the inside. No, he doesn't quite do it. So right at the front here, the battle's on. Chris Walker's teammate, Matt Llewellyn, who is unfortunately still injured from a broken scaphoid, is not in a position to help out Walker. They go through Dingledale's third gear corner. At the back of this pack, we see number 1, Neil Mackenzie. He seems to be closing in now as they come out of the left-hander, Stirling's corner, down towards Clearways, and it's very important to get a good drive out of Clearways here now. Number 32, Bayliss, squeezing the power on in third gear, up towards the start and finish straight.
The 3 men in contention for the championship are Chris Walker, number 2. You're looking at him now. Neil Mackenzie running with Chris Walker. John Reynolds, number 5. And 4, John Reynolds has gone underneath Neil Hodgson, up to second place as I speak. And with him goes number 7, Sean Emmett, his guardian. He's hanging on the back underneath Neil Hodgson, pushing the 25-year-old Burnley boy wide. Hodgson now lives in the Isle of Man. He's got a long way home, but he's 4th in this race. Ahead of him, his teammate right at the front. Bayliss is coming under huge pressure from John Reynolds, who can see 25 points here for the taking. You might as well write with a felt pen on the back of Bayliss's leathers 25 points, because that is where John Reynolds is heading. He's side by side, not quite. The factory bikes in this British Superbike Championship so evenly matched, and in particular the Ducatis. Absolutely nothing to choose between them. The rear end's moving, they're all on slick tyres, as I said earlier. The track totally dry. We've got record speeds again here. This is what we're used to seeing. And perhaps I should look at Bayliss. Swoops down. We've commented over the season how his lines seem to differ from the other riders, but there's not much other than the official line through Dingledale. Race leader Bayliss, number 32. Then it's Reynolds, number 4. Then it's Emmett. A watching brief over the back end of his teammate. Look at Hodgson on the rear end of the Ducati, parking it as he goes in almost backwards. It's wonderful stuff. Chris Walker is struggling because he's locked in a battle now with Neil Mackenzie. Looking at the inside line of Paddock Hill Bend, John Reynolds. Can he take it here? No. Bayliss good on the brakes as usual.
Very, very good on the brakes, and as you say, he does take some strange lines, but they're working at the moment. You can see Sean Emmett shadowing number 4 there, his teammate John Reynolds, and Reynolds goes through on the brakes. Again, he's run a bit wide. Reynolds really wide out on the dirty part of the track. That hasn't helped him at all. Sean Emmett gives him plenty of room now. They swoop back into Graham Hill Bend. That was very kind of Emmett to let Reynolds come back in there. He could have pushed him out, but nevertheless, Bayliss has given him a few bikes lead now. So we look at number 25 there. Neil Hodgson dives in the inside as they go into Stirling's corner, so Hodgson back up into third place. Looking back from number 2, Chris Walker here to number 1, Mackenzie, and it sounds to me like the clutch is slipping on that bike. If you listen to the revs, it's really screaming, and that was allowing number 1 to go past. So there we go. Neil, no, he doesn't go past. Look at Chris Walker. He slams that Kawasaki across the front of the Yamaha. There's something wrong with the bike. The revs are way too high for what's happening. You can hear it. Now listen very carefully, screaming away, comes out of there, third gear, fourth gear, but there's too many revs for the amount of drive he's getting.
Sounds almost like an automatic, but still he's keeping Mackenzie behind him, and the way he's doing, mind you, at the front 4, I just cannot, it's unbelievable, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. Reynolds in second place, look at Emmett, who's now right behind Hodgson in third. Emmett is 4th, Hodgson 3rd, Reynolds desperately needs to get past Bayliss, and the only way he's going to do that is get into the wheel tracks of the Australian and put him under some pressure. The leading pair have broken away slightly from 3rd and 4th place, and it looks as though Hodgson is under pressure because Sean Emmett has gone following faithfully. John Reynolds protecting his rear end. If at all possible, Emmett's going to do that. Ride the tight line. What a wonderful piece of formation riding we're seeing, and almost touching Emmett side by side with Bayliss. He's going for second place here to look after the best interests of John Reynolds, who now leads. Bayliss left a great big hole there at Druids. let Reynolds through and almost let Emmett through. Emmett being pushed out by Hodgson. It's the old Ducati quartet again. Neil Mackenzie, 6th place behind Chris Walker. First race winner, Chris Walker. And as Steve Parish pointed out, that clutch just slipping. It sounds like an automatic car. And that Kawasaki goes forward, not nearly quickly enough. And he's doing it, Steve, just by outbraking Mackenzie.
Yes, there's something very serious really wrong with the bike. You can see Mackenzie closing in the whole time on the straights, but Chris Walker just braking so late, but I don't see it lasting this race at all. Back at the front there, you can see Emmett. All he's trying to do now is to hassle number 32, Bayliss. If he can just keep showing his front wheel up the inside, keep moving him out, and he goes straight the way through. Perfect ride from Sean Emmett. He's doing a wonderful job here for John Reynolds. At the beginning of this meeting, John Reynolds said he didn't trust him to be his shotgun man, but he's doing a great job at the moment. And we saw then Mackenzie having a look on the inside. But once again, Chris Walker slams that Kawasaki over the front of number 1, Neil Mackenzie. But Mackenzie now's got the drive out of clearways. He'll go down the inside into Paddock Hill Bend. I don't believe that Walker can be late into it that late now. I'm sure that Mackenzie's got through. No, once again he does it. Walker's a brave man.
Delivering all that horsepower through a burnt clutch, that will never go the distance, I'm sure, the Kawasaki. But at the front, the Ducati's really focused now. John Reynolds won this championship, the race leader, way back in 1992. He was teamed up on Kawasaki's with Brian Morrison in those days. Can he lift the crown again in the final series of the 20th century? Dramatic stuff, I'm sure, but what a great series it's been. Chris Walker still with Neil Mackenzie, really showing the reigning champion how to ride a bike that's not going very, very well indeed. The Yamaha's been getting quicker all season, and this time I think Mackenzie has made it stick. Yes, he has. The top speed paid off there. Walker then down to 6th, just 10 points, and there's a faller. That's number 15, that's Damien Bailey, has dumped that big Suzuki twin. Not the first time we've seen that on the grass this year.
No, it isn't, but Chris Walker's clutch is well burnt out. The engine's going to blow up soon if he doesn't soon pull it in, because the revs are way too high. Now Reynolds at the front looking very comfortable. Behind him, Sean Emmett guarding him, doing a great job into Paddock Hill Bend. John Reynolds, this is exactly what he needed to put himself back up into contention, and here we are with Chris Walker. I can't believe the engine is still running. Listen to that, it sounds like it's in neutral, but really he's trying to put some drive in. As they go blasting past him, Chris Walker is retiring, and he will be extremely sad about that.
That is bad news. Chris Walker's championship hopes now looking very, very slim. There are still 50 points up for grabs at Donington Park, where the final 2 races take place, and Chris Walker knows he has to win those 2 races and lift maximum, and even then count on some misfortune befalling Troy Bayliss. The championship realistically now looks as though it's shaping up between a 2-horse battle, Reynolds versus Bayliss. But poor Chris Walker, very, very dejected. He's brought the Kawasaki home, and to add insult to injury, I think he's not going to have to push it himself. The marshals are doing that for him, but his body language, his head is bowed. We all feel for poor Chris Walker, but another man who had bad luck, pole position man Steve Hislop, who started from the pit lane, is charging through the field from a tail-end Charlie position. He's got that second bike, the bike he's never ridden before, right behind the 2 factory Suzukis, and looks every bit as though he's going to go past. He was so quick round here. He actually put his qualifying time, his pole position time, in the first session. And through, he's gone past Cragill, and he's gone past Hayden. Number 8, James Hayden, has run wide, and Hislop has gone past the 2 Suzukis in one fell swoop. So, up to 6th place then. Steve Hislop, now ahead of him is his teammate Neil Mackenzie, and of course Mackenzie was dicing with Chris Walker, who's got his bike back to the paddock, and he is utterly dejected. So much so that he won't even speak to Steve Parish, who's down there to find out what his views are. I think we know what the views of Chris Walker will be. The pictures do indeed tell the story. Back with the privateers, Paul Young and the reigning champion Phil Giles, number 21, diving through on the inside and going wide, almost onto the grass. Paul Young has seen his lead just diminish. It's evaporated, and it's come down to the point where he really needs to do something special now if he's to lift this title. Young, one of the men who's been spoken to by factory teams, but David Heel on his way, number 6, to a privateer double, and put himself in with a chance suddenly out of nowhere of lifting the privateer championship. The final lap here at Brands Hatch, and it's John Reynolds, shadowed faithfully by his teammate Sean Emmett, coming down to take the honours here. The checkered flag is ready. It's 25 points then for Reynolds. That will enhance his chances when he goes to Donington Park of having a real go at the Australian who leads the series. And it's 25 points in the win for John Reynolds and 20 points for Sean Emmett, who crashed so heavily in round 21. But look at Reynolds, a wonderful posture. Dave Heel, number 6, on his way to the privateer victory then. A double, the first double for David Heel on the Team Maiko Kawasaki, heading for the line, fist in the air. Home ground for Dave Heel, of course. He comes from Sussex, a former 600 competitor. Oh, uncharacteristic burnout from John Reynolds. He's a modest man. He had to grab a handful of clutch there. The bike nearly took off without him. There's the result confirmed. Bayliss was third, that's 16 points. Hodgson was fourth, so it's a Ducati 1, 2, 3, 4, and a stunning ride by Yamaha's Steve Hislop to follow Mackenzie, his teammate, home.